Hello, everyone. Today is the Jim Kleiber Show. Oh, forgot that part. Welcome to the Jim Kleiber Show. Today is Thursday, October 8th, 2020. And I hope the sound is okay. My neighbor is out mowing the lawn, and someone in my family is standing in the kitchen above, creaking the floor. So I hope it doesn't come across too loudly over the mic. But I guess that's the problem of trying to record things in a real world environment. It's hard to find a very quiet space in our house, you know. Oops. Speaking of which, got all these notifications popping up on the computer. Turn those off. Turn the phone off. Gotta get everything in check, so that we can rock and roll. Whew. I'm realizing doing this show earlier in the day means that I'm not catching too much of the news, because a lot of the news either hasn't happened yet or it hasn't really developed too much. It typically develops more over the day. But one thing to talk about that has developed today is apparently 6 people were arrested here in Michigan, in western Michigan. I think they were arrested for conspiracy to kidnap Governor Whitmer. Apparently they were trying to plan out how to kidnap her. So if you're not familiar, Whitmer is the governor of Michigan, and she put in place some pretty strict measures to try to control COVID-19 and try to control the outbreak. And some say she went a little too far. Some like how she did it. Others think that she was trying to overthrow the society. I personally believe that she tried to do the best that she could. I think she did overstep in some ways I don't know if she was allowed to do some of the executive orders, if they agreed with the law. And I also think we're in a tricky situation where many Congresses around the country aren't doing much. There's so much gridlock. There's so much partisan gridlock that to get anything done, unfortunately, sometimes the executive has to jump in with executive orders. I don't like it. I prefer when it goes through legislative processes, and I much prefer when people in the legislature work together to resolve the conflict instead of just beating their chests and pretending like they care, or not pretending like they care. I think they care, but instead of just beating their chests and aligning with peer pressure because they're so afraid of the intimidation. Anyways, we talked about this the other day. I talked about this a lot, with how to create environments where people in Congress can actually deliberate with each other, away from a lot of the peer pressure intimidation from outside forces. But so anyways, a plot to kidnap her is kind of a big deal. I think the FBI was involved in the arrest, and they talked about having informants and intelligence and stuff like this. What else did they mention? They said that these people were reaching out to militias as well to try to get support from militias in Michigan. If you're not familiar, Michigan has quite a few militias. I don't know too much about them. I do know that I think it was back in the day of the Oklahoma City bombing. One of the guys, was it Terry McNichols? Was that his name? Terry McNichols, I think. Or Terry Nichols, probably, because it was Timothy McVeigh. Was involved in one of the militias here in Michigan. And maybe there's just one. I really don't know too many of the details on the militia here in Michigan, but I know it's got a stronger presence than it does in many other states. I don't know. Has this happened a lot in not human history? In human history, of course, it's happened a lot. Has this happened a lot in U.S. history, where there have been plots to try to kidnap or overthrow a leader, a governor, or a president, things like this? I mean, maybe not on the level of that many people coordinating for a plot, but there have been a lot of presidents who have been assassinated or have had assassination attempts, like a lot. I think. Well, just off the top of my head, Kennedy. Okay. I don't know too much about this topic. I'm really just trying to talk, but I don't know too much about it. But let's see, how can we take this to a deeper level? Again, let's go back into the emotions of somebody who might be a politician. Imagine being a politician and being faced, like Whitmer, being faced with this huge pandemic that's killing lots of people in your state. And it's also making a lot of people sick, and it's making a lot of people afraid. And therefore, you close down businesses because you listen to what the epidemiologists are saying, and you don't want it to spread anymore. But by closing down businesses, you recognize that you're going to hurt a lot of those small business owners. And they may lose everything that they work for. Their business may just disappear overnight after having put in 10, 15, 20 years into the business. And all their money could just poof, be gone. And all the people that work for them could be out of jobs. And so now some of those people are going to go home, and some of them are going to get addicted to drugs or maybe alcohol, or some of them are going to overdose. Some of them may even commit suicide. Some of them may commit homicide. Some of them may get involved with domestic abuse, either on the giving or the receiving side. So how do you make the decision? Okay, so then you make that decision. You say, okay, we're going to close down these types of businesses for this amount of time. And then what happens when the situation gets worse? What happens when it gets better? Okay, maybe you feel proud that the situation resolved itself from a medical standpoint, but from an economic standpoint, not so much. From a trust standpoint, not so much. Maybe it got worse. Maybe people trust each other less because for some people in the west side of the state or the northern part of the state or even the Upper Peninsula may look at this and go, wow, there's no virus around me. Why are you closing everything down in the state? This is ridiculous. You just want to have authoritarian control, blah, blah, blah. What happens when the virus isn't evenly spread? Maybe some people in Southeast Michigan, like here, are grateful for the orders that she put in for how it reduced this very quick spreading virus here. But some people in the more rural areas are super angry because they didn't see the virus, but they saw the job loss. They saw the disruption to their life and to their coping mechanisms. Gosh, so now these people who are used to going out to the bar and hanging out with their friends can't go out to the bar and hang out with their friends. And sometimes when we get into a fight at home, we want to go out to a place, to the bar, to the mall, to the store, to the cafe, to some other place with other people to just get a distraction, to take our minds off of it. Maybe we want to go to the movies. We want to watch the movie, to escape for a little bit. But it's not really escape when we're watching the movie in the same room with the same person that we're trying to escape from. It doesn't allow us to get that space so easily. So for that governor, we may have some people that are so grateful for us and some people who hate us and so angry at us for what we've done. And, I was reading something by Tim Ferriss. He's an author and podcaster, and he's done quite a few other things. But he was talking about fame. I think it was a blog post about fame. And he was saying fame is not all it's cracked up to be. And especially nowadays with the internet age. He says, as you get a larger audience, you basically get the same problems that come with a larger audience anywhere. So imagine, he says, if you have an audience of 10 or 20 people, that's like the size of maybe 30 people. It's like the size of a classroom, So, it's somewhat manageable and this and that. Okay, now if you go to maybe 1,000, 2,000, 3,000 people, that's the size of a high school, maybe 500 to a couple thousand. That's like the size of a high school or something. Okay, in that high school, you're going to get some people who are involved with drugs. You're going to get some people who are involved with other things, right? So some people who are struggling with certain issues and some people are not. As you get larger, if you go to, 10,000 or 20,000, now you're talking about a small town. You go to a couple 100,000, you're talking about a big town. You go to 1 million, you're talking, quite a large town in this world. And city rather. And at this level, he says, imagine if you have an audience of a couple million people. That's like New York City or something. How many homicides are there in New York City every year? How many thefts and robberies and muggings are there? How much domestic abuse and violence is there? How much blah, blah, blah is there? A lot. Just because the percentage multiplied by, maybe it's a small percent, maybe it's 1% of people who do it, but multiply that by 1 million, 2 million people, and it's a lot of people. And he says this is what happens to people who become more and more public figures, is that they get a larger and larger audience, and it's almost guaranteed that a certain percentage of that audience is going to have certain tendencies. And yeah, so imagine now you're a public figure for a state that has, I should know this, but it's something like, I think, wow, I have no idea. I think my guess is like 12 million people. So imagine you have an audience of like 12 million people. Of course, you're going to get some people in there who want to harm you and this and that. But I still think the percentage is very, very, very small about people who are going to want to conspire and try to, rally people to come together and kidnap you. Just thinking about the number of death threats that somebody gets in a position like that on a daily basis. How do you make these decisions of life and death knowing that they're going to impact so many people and probably lead to either saving lives or losing lives? No matter what decision you make, some people are going to live and some people are going to die. And then get blamed for it. And then get... Gosh. I think it's so easy for us to sit back and yell at them for what they're doing. But how many of us actually want to do that? How many of us want to be in their position where we sit there and we make these heavy decisions? Do you want to sit and make a decision about whether an economy should open up or should close, knowing that it's either, it's going to lead to the loss of life, regardless of which decision you make? And if you don't make a decision, it's going to lead to a loss of life. They call it the trolley problem, right? So I think the trolley problem is you have a train that's going down a track and it's going to kill 10 people. And you have the ability to pull a lever and switch the train to another track. But by pulling that lever and switching the train to another track, there's one person standing on the other track and it will kill that one person. So which decision do you make? Do you do nothing and let the trolley go through and kill the 10 people? Or do you pull the lever knowing that the trolley will go over and kill the other person? It's not an easy problem. It's a philosophical problem that's been around for a long time. Because regardless of what you do, somebody's going to die. You can try to save the different people. You can try to save everyone, but it's really tough. Gosh, and to be in that position and then afterwards to get blamed for it. And not even just blame, but again, like some people seem so angry and so upset and so afraid that they might be willing to go and try to kidnap and pull this person out of power. Can't remember where I read it. This happens too often. But it might have been in this book called Evil Men. But the author said that evil is when we try to get rid of evil. Like, wow. How many people think that they're doing the good thing by trying to get rid of evil, but that leads them to doing very quote unquote evil things? So, for example, like this, somebody may think, oh, okay, well, she's in there. She's destroying our state. She's destroying our society. She destroyed my life. We need to get rid of her to protect the state, to protect our society. What? Does that make sense? Like, I understand that she needs to leave, but if you break the rules to make her leave, does that really protect the society? It's not so different than, saying we need to overthrow the government because the government is destroying the government, Like, it's not so different than what a lot of terrorists, people who commit terrorist acts would say is they're not trying to go out and kill people. They're trying to protect people. People in the Middle East sometimes, some of these groups in the Middle East will say, oh, the Western world is destroying our way of life. We are here to protect our way of life. Therefore, we need to destroy them. Huh? What? And so often it's not about trying to hurt the other person. It's trying to protect people that we care about. But in protecting people that we care about, we end up hurting somebody else. I tell this story a lot because it really impacted me. There was a book called The Protector Ethic. I think that's the name. It's close to that. And the author talks about being in a martial arts class, and the instructor says, protect this woman. And so a guy comes up to attack the woman, and he jumps in and he grabs the guy and he flips him around. He puts him down on the ground and puts him into a lock. And he's feeling proud of himself. Yeah, I did it. And he turns back and looks at the woman and realizes that there's a second attacker. And then the instructor says, I didn't tell you to attack that man. I told you to protect that woman. Jump in there, put your body on top of her, and protect her. Very different. And so many of us want to protect the ones that we love and we care about, but we jump in and we do it by attacking the other person. That doesn't protect the person. Protect them. Stand there and take the blows for the person. Redirect it. Say, okay, stop hitting that person. If you want to hit somebody, hit me. Taking the pain, taking the attacks, taking the violence instead of that other person. That's protection. Jumping in and punching the other person is not protection. Jumping in and punching the other person it's attacking. And it's likely to lead to more violence. That's my perspective. One thing when I was taking Krav Maga that really kind of confused me, and was one of the reasons I started with emotional self-defense and training in my own form of martial art, was if somebody comes and attacks me and I respond and I beat them down, what are the odds that they're going to come back with 5 guys next time? Do you think they're just going to let it go and go, okay, he won, he beat me, okay, I'm not going to try it again? No, there's a good chance he might come back with more people or escalate the conflict in some way to regain his pride, to regain, to lose that humiliation factor. So I don't think the attacking back really works. I don't know. I think we would have a much more loving and trusting relationship with our government if we started to imagine what it might feel like to be one of those people. I think we assume that they're these superhuman automatons that can get anything done or can't get anything done. And it's ironic. We at one hand we see them as these powerful forces that are overruling and destroying our lives. On the other hand, we think of them as highly inefficient, wasteful, lazy people. It's this combination of kind of superhumanizing and subhumanizing. They are this superhuman beast, and they're this subhuman beast, really, in some way, It's this disconnection from the fact that they're just a human being. Listen, I don't envy most of these people for the roles that, I don't envy the position they're in, not the people. I don't envy that position of having so many eyes on you, so many words thrown at you. And regardless of the decision you make, people are going to be angry. Some people are going to be happy, and some people won't even notice it. I don't know. How many of you want to go into elected office? How many of you want to be a public figure that's not only like on Snapchat or TikTok or something like that, where you're an influencer, but you are a decision maker? There's a big difference, I think. As an influencer, yeah, I mean, you still get your fair, you get a lot of threats and I mean, again, the hatred, the love, and the indifference. You get a lot of all of that. As a decision maker, I think you get even more, because an influencer can be tuned out. Like, listen, if somebody wants to be a reality TV star or somebody wants to be a TikTok star, it's fine. I don't have to look at TikTok. I don't have to look at reality TV. It doesn't really affect my life that directly. But orders from the governor, or orders from Congress, or from the president affect my life much more directly. You know, if they cancel flights from here to Europe, I can't go to Europe. I can't see many of my friends in Europe. If I had family over there, then I couldn't go see my family. There's some people in Michigan who aren't allowed to go to Canada because Canada passed a ruling saying they would close the border. So if people have family in Canada, which some of my family does, they can't go to Canada, or they have to go and they have to quarantine for a couple weeks. I have friends and family who have like houses in Canada, and they can't just drive over the border to go to their house for the summer. So, I mean, it can have a really strong impact on us. And so therefore, I think we can project even more love, hatred, and indifference towards these people. Gosh. How many of us pause and think about what it might feel like to be an elected official? Most people I talk to, and these are people who are highly politically active too. Most of them I talk to, I go, okay, so when are you going to run for office? And they say, oh, no, I would never do that. What are you talking about? You just talked about politics all day long. Oh, yeah, I don't want to do that. So, you know, it's easy to sit back and complain about these people and be like, oh, they're horrible, they're destroying the world. Well, why don't you do it? Whoa, no. Are you kidding me? No way. I'm not going to subject myself and my family to such scrutiny. I got skeletons in my closet. I can't do that. Like, oh, the number of conversations I've had where I encourage the person to run for office and they go, no, you don't understand. And I'm thinking, maybe none of us really understand what it's like, and don't pause too much to reflect on what it might be like. Gosh. It's hard, I think, for many of us to imagine what it might be like to be on city council, to be in local government, being a celebrity in our city. Many of us like to hide in our little bubbles. Like, maybe we're on the internet and we're doing things there. But even then, not so many. What did I read about? There's some rule that says it's 99-1. Basically, 90% of the people on the internet were just lurking. We just kind of read stuff. We don't really contribute at all. We just not like actively contribute in terms of speaking or writing content and stuff like that. We just consume content. And then you have about 9% that occasionally post or produce content or interact. They reply to comments and things like this. And then something like 1% that produces the vast majority of the content. Like the ones that are talking the most and contributing the most. So perhaps society is similar too. You know, how many of us actually want to be the one who has the mic in our hand and we're talking? We think we do. We would love to have that mic. But then when we're given the opportunity to stand up and say something, well, no. I'll leave that to someone else. So, yeah, I think one of the best things we could do to help this country and to help around the world is to start thinking about what it might feel like to be a politician, what it might feel like to be a decision maker for that many people. It doesn't even have to be a politician. We can imagine what it feels like to be a a CEO or an owner of a large company, even a small company. I mean, the owners are the minority, right? If you have a company that's got 100 people, there's only maybe one or two owners. Typically it's a much smaller amount than the people who are employed. What might it feel like? What would make these people angry? What would make these people feel confused? What might make these people feel proud? What might make these people feel embarrassed? What might make these people feel hopeful or hopeless, weak or strong? What might make these people feel loved and supported? What might make these people feel lonely and abandoned? Gosh, I can't imagine the loneliness that some of these people might feel. Not sure whether people care about them at all or just care about the decisions they make and are just looking for excuses to yell. And some are just looking for excuses to love. And some are just trying to manipulate them into making certain decisions that help that specific group and not others. So, I say a lot of this to talk about what happened today with the conspiracy to kidnap the governor of Michigan and those people who are arrested. And I try to imagine what it might feel like to be the governor and think that to be anyone and think that there are people out there who are plotting to try to kidnap me. How much fear, anger, or confusion, or uncertainty, or anxiety that might invoke. Or even, even kind of a confidence or a pride. I don't know. I don't know what it would make this person feel. It's probably a lot of things. Trepidation, fear, who knows? Does this inspire someone to open up and do more? Or does it inspire them to kind of close in and disconnect? But I think I would be remiss if I didn't talk about trying to imagine what those people who are plotting were feeling as well. What brought them to this point where they would plot something like this? Are they feeling desperate in their lives? Why are they feeling desperate? What happened? Did they lose their home? Are they thinking they might lose their home? Did they get divorced? Have they been fighting a lot with their spouse? Have they been fighting with their kids? Is their family estranged now? Did someone die? Did someone not die from the disease, but died from an overdose or suicide? Have they seen drug use in their town go up rampantly, and they're scared of how it might bring back what happened before with the drug abuse in their town? What are they feeling? Are they terrified? Are they, are they numb? Have they gone through so much that they've numbed themselves off? I don't know. How much do they want to live? Are they in the point where they don't see the point in living? Or how much joy are they experiencing right now? Do they feel loved? Do they feel supported by their community? I don't know. What it says to me over and over again is that we're dealing with a lot of emotions in this country and we're not dealing with them very well. A lot of times we just bottle them up or we shove them somewhere and then they come back and come out in different actions. So I hope for all the people involved, directly and indirectly, that we reflect a little more on the emotions that it's making us feel and really sit there with the fact that we feel whether we want to feel or not. It happens. It's a quick response. It's a super quick response. It's very, 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 very fast. And it's okay to feel. It's okay to feel whatever you're feeling. And hopefully that helps a bit. All right, y'all. Until another time, au revoir. Au revoir.